thinking a lot about you as I've been covering this Melodee Buzzard story, and I just wanted to get your take on what you think of the development so far.
Well, first of all, it's heartbreaking, and when you see things like this, when it comes to children, it's always extra scary. And the similarities immediately ring to me, where a parent should be able to show you their child within a couple of seconds or know where they are at all times. The fearful thing is seeing them for a short amount of time and then them disappearing and all the families wondering, just the similarities are scary. I will personally tell you that I hope that is not the case. I never want to see what happened to my family repeated, but it's hard to hear it because there's, for me personally, just too many similarities.
Do you have a gut instinct on what's happening in the Melodee Buzzard story?
I'll tell you that as a parent myself, I could tell you where my kids are 24/7, no matter what's going on. I know where they are at all times, even if they're at school, and it should be very easy to be able to tell anybody where your children are. So I don't have a gut feeling, but I do feel uneasy about it.
Yeah, I've had a bad feeling since day one. I thought there's just no way that a mom wouldn't just put people at ease over something as important as a little girl. Here's where I'm confused. It doesn't feel, to me at least, that it's being considered an emergency by the police. And I'm wondering if you got that feeling when you and Kay Woodcock were trying desperately to get the police to pay attention to Lori Vallow, your mom, and find out where your siblings were.
Yeah, I think the police, it was hard for our case because you get so many new departments involved, right? It's Arizona, it's Idaho, it's all over the place. And then they're looking for Lori and Chad. So yeah, there is urgency. You need to have urgency for a child like this, but I understand that in some circumstances, the police hand could be tied in some ways. But when it comes to children, I think the priority goes to a very high level, and it has to, because their safety is important. And, the police sometimes they're just tied and they can't do something about it.
So, you know what, that is a really good point. And I want you to just pull on that thread a little for me, because you've mentioned in the past that when kids are taken out of the system, like this little girl was taken out of the school system and they were homeschooling. Now, the school system did its level best, right? They didn't come and pick up assignments for a few weeks and they reported it. But it really complicates the process when the child isn't doing what every other child is doing.
Right, exactly. And, especially if a parent takes their kid out of school or moves or whatever the case is, when they go somewhere else, you don't know, the teachers aren't going to know who they are. They're not going to know that they're missing from another place, right? So it's complicated, but now that everyone's looking and trying to figure out what's going on with her, it just makes it even more confusing, because it really ultimately comes down to where is she and why is the mom not speaking on it? Like, why would that be a hard thing to produce your child?
Were you surprised at all that, I mean, for me, I just don't understand why they haven't broken down the door. I always feel as though if there's a child missing, worried relatives, and an intransigent mother who has been caught in the past in a circumstance where her home was so derelict and the food was rotting and the grandmother thought the rotting food was being served to the child, there's a background, there's a history. Why aren't they breaking down the door, considering this to be an exigent circumstance? Are you feeling the same way?
What I'll tell you is, I mean, obviously the human in you agrees 100%. You have to also just look at, I think, what is the legality of all? I don't know that answer. In my case, we already were told that they were missing. And then it's just this wide search of so many people getting involved. And that's when you're holding out hope. And you're always, as a family member, going to hold out hope that it's not the worst case scenario. But we have our own version of justice versus what justice looks like in the actual justice system. And I think it can be different for us as the public versus what they have to do to get to those answers.
Also wanted to ask you about this whole difference between the 72-hour ultimatum that was handed to Melodee's mother, Ashleigh Buzzard. 72 hours, produce the children or else. And the or else, I just don't know what that or else is. Originally, we thought she'd be hauled off to the county jail. That the ultimatum for your mom was 72 hours or we'll put you in cuffs. And ultimately, they chased her to Hawaii and they put her in cuffs. Do you have any thoughts on this very unusual CPS process?
I don't know how the CPS worked exactly. I mean, I know in our case that they did go get Lori. And she needed that because she did have an ultimatum. She had a deadline. She needed to meet it, and she didn't. And the only reason she didn't is because she literally couldn't. Now, in this case, you want to hope and pray that that's not the same thing. You hope and pray that this is not the same scenario and that there is something else going on. And, you know, to all of her family members, I would be the same way. You hold out hope to the very end and you keep praying that it's not the worst case. So I don't know too much about the CPS system, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm just sort of flummoxed and bewildered by it because I thought you give someone an ultimatum and there's a consequence, but I just don't see that playing out, certainly not publicly. If it is playing out, they're holding their cards very close to their chest, which makes me fear there's more to this investigation than just a missing child, and God forbid it is a murder investigation. We don't know that to be true. Your thoughts on the process your mom was going through when she was saying to you, don't worry about it, the kids are safe and happy, when in fact the children had already died. Was she lying to you, or was she lying to herself and believing her lies herself?
Well, that's a great question. I think, honestly, she was lying to herself. I don't think she fully believes in her own story, but I think that is her protecting herself from the reality of what she's done. And I don't think she's changed in a very long time. So, you know, when it comes to her specifically, she's a very, very different person. And I'm sure anybody who's watched her or listened to her speak, you can tell she's a very, very difficult person, and you know, she's dealing with the consequences, but she thinks she's being wronged, right? She thinks that she did nothing wrong, and in her mind, she loves her kids, and so she has this very special case, in my opinion. But it's unfortunate because I've seen some other cases like this where the parent can't produce their child, and you know, there's always something going on mentally with the parent that I've noticed. So it's scary. You don't want anything to happen to children like this.
Well, and we've heard from the extended family that Ashleigh Buzzard, Melodee's mother, has had some severe mental challenges in the past, whether that's still ongoing. It does sound like it from the descriptions, but we aren't being told any diagnosis. What advice do you have for the extended family members of Melodee Buzzard who are desperate to see that little girl?
You hold out hope no matter what. And as bad as you think it could be, as scary as it is, as many questions, as much as you go back and forth in a 24-hour period, you hold out hope and you pray and you don't give it up. And until you know what has happened, you hold out hope. That is my advice, because you don't want to make the scenario in your head. But I don't know if people realize what a prison it is to be scared for someone you love, who, especially a child who can't take care of themselves. But honestly, you just hope and you pray. That's my advice.
Well, conversely, what's your advice for the police in Lompoc, California, who are presumably spearheading this search?
I mean, I'm sure they understand that this is a 9-year-old girl, and you know, you have to take it seriously, but I don't know what their process is, and I don't know what it takes to get all that legal stuff done. I'm not educated in that, but you know, you have to hope that they continue investigating and hopefully find her as soon as possible.
Colby, how are you processing everything that happened with your mom?
Yeah, it took a long time. Years of trials, years of pain. And, you know, now I'm in a place where after it's all kind of settled down, I've been able to refocus on my family, focus on my personal healing and growth, and trying to make the best of what life is. You still have a life to live after tragedy, and try to help inspire as many people as I can, and hopefully be able to give some positive message in all of this darkness, because most people see the darkness, they see the headline, they see what this is, but there can be, a life after all of it. So for me, it's just been focusing on my family, healing, and trying to help others when I can.
Listen, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining me on this topic. I sure hope we have a conversation in the future that's a positive one about Melodee Busby, and I really hope it's not the gut feeling that we have. Colby Ryan, thank you so much for this.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You bet. And to our viewers, if you'd like to hear more from Colby, please check out his YouTube page. It's Colby J. Ryan. And if you have more information on the whereabouts of Melodee Buzzard, please call the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. It's 805-681-4150. Tips can also be left anonymously at sbsheriff.org. And all that information, just take a picture of your TV, or you can go to our website and we'll have that information up there as well.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.